My name is Maya Desai. I am 96 years old. Before 1972, I lived in a paradise called Kampala in Uganda. We were very wealthy back then. We had a large colonial house with these beautiful white pillars and a garden that smelled like jasmine every single evening. My father owned a textile empire, and we had servants who would bow when we entered the room. I was young, I was educated, and I was incredibly arrogant. I looked at the world from the window of a Mercedes, and I truly believed that I was protected by my status. I used to think there were only two kinds of people, those who made it and those who didn't. And because I had made it, I believed the world owed me security. I was wrong, so deeply wrong. I didn't realize that when the law fails the man in the gutter, it has already failed the woman in the mansion. She just hasn't felt the draft yet. People love to compare themselves to others to feel superior, don't they? They see a refugee on the news and think to themselves that it could never be them, because they are too smart, or their country is too stable. This is what I call the grand lie. The truth is that civilization is nothing more than a shared agreement to treat each other as humans. It is not a natural state of being. It's a garden that requires constant weeding, and the moment you start sorting people into us and them, the garden starts turning back into a jungle. I watched a modern, thriving society disappear in exactly 90 days. It didn't happen because of a natural disaster, but because we stopped seeing rights as universal. We started thinking they were a reward for being the right kind of person. It all started on August 4, 1972. The dictator, Idi Amin, appeared on the radio and said God had told him in a dream that the Asians had to leave, and he gave us 90 days to go. We had lived there for 3 generations. It was our only home. Suddenly, the law didn't care about my father's business contracts, and it didn't care about my university degree because the agreement was broken. I remember walking down the street the very next day, and the neighbors we had invited to tea for a decade, they wouldn't look at us. Some looked at the ground, while others looked at our house with a new expression: hunger. They weren't evil people, but they had been told that our rights were standing in the way of their fairness. And just like that, we weren't neighbors anymore. We were targets. Years before that expulsion, I saw something that should have warned me, but I was too blind to see it. I was 21, sitting in a cafe and drinking expensive tea, when across the street I saw a man being dragged into a military truck. He was a local political activist, someone who wasn't one of us. He was screaming about justice and about rights, and I watched him disappear behind those heavy metal doors. And you know what I did? I just stirred my tea. I thought to myself that he was a troublemaker, that he was too loud, and that if he just followed the rules, he wouldn't be in that truck. I compared my quiet life to his noisy one and decided I was safer because I was better. I didn't realize that the truck was eventually coming for all of us. When you allow the law to be ignored for a person you don't like, you are literally abolishing the law for yourself. I was silent because I thought I was in a different category. But there is only one category: human. The day we finally left for the airport, we were stopped at a roadblock. There was a soldier there, no older than 18, standing with a rifle. He told me to get out of the car, and I tried to speak to him in my refined voice, trying to show him my passport as if it still meant something. But he didn't see a woman or a citizen. He saw an object. He reached out and ripped the gold earrings right out of my ears. I didn't scream because of the physical pain. I screamed because of the look in his eyes. It was the look of a man who knew that no one would ever punish him for what he did to me. That is what no law looks like. It isn't just chaos. It's the absolute power of the person with the gun. Everything I had used to compare myself to others, my money, my education, my family name, it all evaporated in that dust. I was just a body in the dirt. We arrived in London with £5 and the clothes on our backs, going from a mansion to a basement flat where the walls were wet with mould. And this is where the lesson became truly unbearable. I saw the locals looking at me exactly how I had looked at that man being dragged into the truck all those years ago. They saw me as a problem. They compared their rightful place in society to my intrusion. I heard them in the market asking why we were there, saying we didn't belong because we weren't like them. I realized then that I had been a part of that same cruelty my whole life. I had spent 60 years comparing my worth to others, and now the universe had flipped the script to show me how ugly that comparison is. Humanism isn't just a feeling, it's a duty. It is the choice to say that even if I don't like you or agree with you, you have the right to exist and be safe. Because if you don't, then neither do I. I have to admit to you that I was a coward for most of my life. I hid behind my privilege and thought that as long as the fire was burning the neighbor's house, I was safe, because my walls were thicker. I didn't care about rights until I was the one without them, and that is my greatest shame. I waited for the world to break before I started caring about the pieces. Please, don't be like me. Don't wait until you lose everything to realize that everyone's dignity is tied directly to your own. Here is the truth I learned at the end of a very long road. The main lie we tell ourselves is that we are safe because we are better or different than them. But the truth is that we are only safe as long as the law protects the person we hate the most. If you want to protect your children, stop looking for ways to feel superior to your neighbors. Instead, protect the institutions that protect people you don't even like. Because when the law becomes selective, it becomes a weapon instead of a shield. I want you to do a few things today, not tomorrow, but today. First, I need you to just stop the comparison. Next time you see someone in trouble and think they brought it on themselves, catch yourself, because that is the first brick of a prison wall. Secondly, you must defend someone unlikable. If you see someone being treated unfairly, even if their views offend you, speak up for their rights as a human. Third, I ask you to really read your history. Look up what happens to societies that start sorting their citizens, because it always ends the same way. Fourth, you must call out dehumanization. When you hear a politician or even a friend call a group of people animals or garbage, you have to stop them, because that language is the drumbeat of war. And finally, support a cause that is for others. Give your time or your money to an organization that protects people who are nothing like you, just to prove to yourself that you believe in universal dignity. I'm 96 years old now. I won't see the end of this century, but you will. The world is getting louder every day, and people are getting angrier. They are begging you to pick a side and hate the other, but I am asking you not to do it. Pick the side of the law. Pick the side of humanism, because that is the only side that leads to a home you can actually live in. If this story made you think, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. We share these stories so you don't have to learn the hard way like I did. Please tell me in the comments, when was a time you chose to see the human instead of the label? And if you have a story of your own that needs to be told, there is a link in the description below. Take care of each other while you still can.